wonderful traits. We can try, we should try. Someday I know we're gonna...
In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
And greetings and salutations, and thank you for tuning in. I am Walt Lusk, your host today, and you have tuned into Dr. Judy WTF. We are heard every Thursday here live at 8 o'clock Pacific here on the UBN network. And Dr. Judy is stuck in traffic a little bit, so she'll be here probably in about 5 minutes, so you're stuck with me for a couple. Dr. Judy is a licensed therapist. She's a clinical psychologist and marriage and family child counselor with a full-time practice. And we're here to talk a little bit about hole in the soul and healing human disconnect. And yes, this is a call-in show, and I'd be happy to talk to you if you call in. Our number is area code 323-284-7826. That's 323-284-7826. And if you miss it, just catch us on iTunes or Stitcher, or, of course, on the UBN, Universal Broadcasting Network website to catch our old shows. And we have an amazing following, and thank you so much for everyone that listens and checks in and writes. You can write us at info@drjudywtf.com. Now, Judy's invented a system of her own called the Mind Map, which is a 9-panel, very, very effective system of how she does therapy. And actually, what we're going to talk about today mostly is a symposium she went to at UCLA, which was her alma mater. And she got to hang out and hobnob with a lot of the heavies that are in the industry and talk about human disconnect. And it was very, very enlightening for her. And I think some folks are going to have some paradigm shifts. She's going to be speaking at a couple of classes on her theory, which has been very effective and surprising to a lot of folks. She does therapy quickly. Her goal is to teach everyone how to fish as opposed to just giving them one. So the title of the show basically is Look Into My Eyes and You'll See What You Mean to Me. Cutting edge news from the UCLA conference. This is actually part 2 of a show we did 2 weeks ago on the good, the bad, and the ugly of therapists. And we're going to talk about some cutting edge and, as I say, the bleeding edge of therapy. But before that, I wanted to get into an article or two here. And one of them is very telling but very sad, and that is that the Golden Gate Bridge up in the San Francisco Bay Area has had a milestone last year of 2013, and that was that there were more suicides last year than in any year they've been keeping statistics. There were 46 suicides. The previous year, there were 33. So that is a 35% increase in the number of people that committed suicide. It's a 4,200-foot long span, and it actually is the world's most frequently chosen site in the world for public suicides, and it's nearly always fatal. People from 17-year-old to 86-year-old have jumped, and it's just very tragic. Up to 118 people have actually leaped to their deaths that they know of since 2000 when they started keeping statistics. And a funny thing here, that says suicides always come in waves, but anyway, so that's that one. And actually, Dr. Judy just rolled in here, so we'll get things rolling. Dr. Judy, thanks for being in the studio.
It's great to be here.
Well, yes. You know, I was just going to talk about how we've had this article that we want to talk about since September of last year, and it's entitled, Are You Too Busy to Go to the Restroom?
I think today I was.
I think we all have been. The problem is the litmus test for this overstressed, overscheduled life is we can't find time to answer nature's call. And we seem to hold it in and multitask along the way, so it makes life a little bit challenging. We even scarf down our food, driving 70 miles an hour like a ravaged dog, paying a little attention to what we're inhaling unless we get unlucky and ketchup lands on our freshly laundered shirt. So the point is that maybe we're just going through life too fast and running on empty. And some suggestions, if you'd like to take these down, is you might want to just get up and move your body. Get away from the office. forget about running on empty. Go out and go for a run or a brisk walk for a few minutes. Try that for lunch.
Do you mean heading down the freeway in rapid speed isn't akin to moving your body?
Absolutely.
That's not what you meant?
Kind of not, unless you're really
Okay.
jamming to the oldies on in your seat.
A little bit.
Take a real vacation, a place where there is no cell reception. I had a friend of mine that said, if you haven't had a vacation within 3 time zones of where you live now, you're financially challenged. Get some shut-eye. We as a nation, as I'll talk about in another quick article, are radically sleep deprived. And stop relying on drugs like caffeine, tobacco, prescription medications, Red Bull, and Monster to make it through the day. Right?
So, yeah. And why do people do that? Because we're back to talking about our Hole in the Soul series and the topic of healing human disconnect, our very famous and favorite topic, because there's lots of it out there. And I had the privilege of being at an amazing, amazing conference at UCLA on affect regulation and the healing of the self. And
it was a 3-day pack-filled, mind-bending.
It was, and I was pleased to say that the profession of psychology has really, really grown. I think I've been avoiding going back into mingling with my peers because I was just kind of concerned that they were still in the symptom management mode and the medication management mode, which is fine in certain circumstances.
Well, medication management, isn't that more for psychiatry?
It is, but there's a blend over. We get release forms to talk to our patient psychiatrists all the time because sometimes the affect regulation, which I'm going to talk about quite a bit, which basically in plain English means the ability to self-soothe, the ability to contain our emotions, and that all comes from the first few months and first few years of life. And if that period doesn't go well,
then I think
pretty big damage.
We go from
here.
inability to self-soothe to the ability to self-medicate.
Yeah, and that fills in the hole in the soul, and so it's
they're trying to fill in the hole in the soul.
Yeah, well, we're certainly making great attempts at it.
Yes, we
The
are.
liquor stores are stocked, right?
Absolutely,
and,
they are.
And there's plenty of medical marijuana and not so
And
medical
growing.
marijuana and all kinds of other choices out there, along with food, which is another way we self-medicate.
We had a food and mood show last year, so you can pull that out. Pull that from iTunes or Stitcher.
Yes. So basically, we are all little infants inside, still trying to regulate our feelings, our affects, and in order to do so, we sometimes don't do a really good job. And the reason we do not do a good job is because if you put the mind map up, which is my the system that I use to heal human disconnect, then you can look at panel 1. And panel 1 to me is a metaphor for lots of things. It's a metaphor for the womb and the mother and the infant
And for those of you
relationship.
that aren't watching this live on streaming at this hour, you can go to www.drjudywtf.com and see it as well. And I also forgot to make mention that we, as usual, will be shrinking a popular tune toward the latter end of the show. It's what we do every show is we pick a tune. I read the lyrics. Dr. Judy sort of puts it through her mind map. Then, of course, we play the song, and we all hear it differently from then on out.
And this tune is going to be centered around the eyes. And another
It's
thing
one of my
that
favorite artists, too.
It is.
Oh, yeah.
Mine too.
Yeah.
And one of the significant aspects of panel 1 is that panel 1 represents the mother-infant, very, very special relationship. It's a time of attunement, and Winnicott, who is a British psychoanalyst, wrote that the early management of an infant is a matter beyond conscious thought and deliberate intention. It is something that becomes possible only through love. Only through love. The good enough mother, by expressing love in terms of physical management and in giving physical satisfactions, enables the infant's psyche to begin in the infant body. Okay, so what does that all mean? That means that love, like we say over and over again, is the most underrated and underestimated powerful force in the universe. And love, as expressed between mother and baby, is a very, very special relationship because we are psychoneurobiological, meaning that we are psychological, we're neurological, we're biological, we're our own pharmacological dopamine makers and serotonin makers, and we make all kinds of chemicals up in the
Yes,
brain
we
area.
do. Well, and quite naturally, if given the opportunity. So, but are you saying is every man an island, or no man is an island?
No man is an island, and I found out after
they're
sitting
not.
through 3 wonderful days, listening to some very, very prominent people, and I'll mention some names soon because these are the cutting edge people in our field.
Well, as I started the show, I said they're they're on the leading edge and the bleeding edge.
Leading and bleeding, yes. So one of these people is Daniel Siegel. And Daniel Siegel is a doctor, and he has integrated a lot of various systems from various modalities, including anthropology, and he looked at cell biology, and he concluded that we should no longer, and this is the common thinking today, we cannot look at our fields in isolation. We can't say, oh, you're a cognitive behaviorist, or you're a neurologist, or you're a biologist. We have to pull in, and as I have been saying all along, a la the mind map, we are interconnected. These bodies of knowledge are interconnected. And so as intricate creatures, we form the basis for interconnection with our primary caregiver, which is mom. And so if that goes right, then not only is there an emotional component, but there's actually a biological component to this.
Absolutely, there is.
Seriously, a biological component. With the eye contact, the eye-to-eye contact of the mother to the baby, there forms an emotional attachment that then stimulates basic areas of the brain that starts developing.
My understanding, even to validate that, is that the eyesight of a newborn is only about a foot.
Yes.
In other words, they are designed to focus on the face of the mom as they're being nursed, as opposed to really being stimulated by anything else around, thereby maintaining and trying to establish that human, caregiver contact.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that all of you can do out there to seriously change the face of the human race, and I'd be very happy to lose all my business, next generation, no problem. Be great parents. Be great parents. And I quote John Bowlby a lot because he is the father of attachment theory. And I had such a pleasure of meeting his son, Sir Richard Bowlby, who flew all the way out from England to talk about attachment theory. And there was a lot of talk about attachment theory. And of course, I ran up to him because for me, it was like meeting Freud, and so
yes.
Freud's no longer, but I got to meet Sir John Bowlby, and he said, it's all about the primary. It's all about the primary. Beautiful British accent. And so what does he mean by that is that if we have this primary object, meaning the mother, and that relationship is solid, then the baby gets what we call a secure attachment, and it all starts there.
Yes.
And so panel 1 really represents the womb, the secure attachment, and if you guys are close to a computer, then go ahead and shine it up and see that panel 1 is also an eye. It's an eyeball. So identity comes from the eye contact between mother and child.
I didn't know.
Yeah, I didn't know. I like that. We're very punny tonight. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so this is the beginning of attachment theory. And if that attachment is broken, then what happens is that the child does not know how to self-soothe. This is a big problem. If a child does not know how to self-soothe, they will get anxious. They will be more fearful. They will fall into the darkness,
depression.
The depression. Yeah. They will basically not able to self-cohese, if you will. So it takes the mother to be the skin to skin, breast to breast. And more and more studies are showing, and parents, I didn't invent this, don't shoot the messenger. Worst thing today, I was just talking to Dr. Walter Brackelmans at UCLA, and one of my favorite couples therapist, and he heads up a lot of research at UCLA on couples therapy. And he talks about the same thing that I talk about, which is that there's so much disconnection. And my profession is finally saying it. They're not really hot on daycare. They're not big on sending children out and detaching them from mothers. And we are one of the only countries that do not lend support to our new mothers for the first year of life.
It's true.
Other countries do.
There was
We're
a
not
movie
doing
that
it.
was Michael Moore, and I can't remember that. Sicko. It was called Sicko. And in France, for example, when there's a newborn, France, as this country, they actually pay for a nanny to come in and help the mom do laundry and do other things. And of course, the mom's on paid leave to cement and foster the relationship with their child.
Yes, and so this break in attachment therefore causes great pathology that then walks into my office, ends up between couples. And so what couples tend to do is that instead of relating to each other, they're drawing in their own attachment problems into the relationship, and they're projecting it onto their partners. And so the multi-generational transmission of all the generations that preceded all of these people is now trickling down and casting a shadow over the light of the infant.
Multi-generational transmission. That sounds.
That's a mouthful.
That sounds really heavy.
It's a really heavy, and again, we brought up the theme just today in our beautiful discussion of a panel of psychiatrists and medical students and psychological interns and MFT students, and we were talking about the Bowlby study, which is a study of 60 people. Richard Bowlby, along with his associate, is now studying Alzheimer's, and they are finding that Alzheimer's is related to detachment and loss. And now they're finding out that if you do a genogram, which is a kind of like a diagram of all the losses of the parent, the mother, and you find that the mother lost her mother or her grandmother, or the husband died, and if there are these multiple deaths, and if the mother then had a couple of miscarriages along the way, then the grief process puts the darkness in her eyes and shuts out the light. And so now, even though she is physically present to the baby, let's say, emotionally, she's in such a state of grief that she's unable to give those emotional supplies to the baby. And now they're actually diagramming that individuals who are single, not married, no children, have sustained a lot of loss, are at risk for developing Alzheimer's, not to mention that they are at risk for over-medicating. I used to work, I'll tell you a little story. I used to work there, but I also used to work at old age facility, and I noticed that one of the problems was that the elderly used to drink pretty heavily, and they used to stash their alcohol, and of course you would mismanage their medication.
I was going to say that would play havoc with their medications.
Oh yeah. But at that point, they just wanted to get their brain chemistry balanced. They just wanted
they're
that
self-medicating.
sense of soothing.
Yeah,
right.
Self-medicating.
They wanted to self-medicate. Yeah. That's what all these people that we criticize and end up in the legal system,
right, for drug abuse and such.
Actually, Drew Pinsky, Dr. Drew talked about this. Gabor Mate talks about this.
Yeah, Dr. Drew.
Yeah, they're really looking for that. I will call it. This is my way of putting it: the love juice.
Okay.
The love juice.
Okay.
If they don't get the love juice during the first few months and years of life, which is the drinking in of the breast milk, which is the smelling of the skin, the heartbeat, the regulatory mechanisms of the mother, then they're lost in space, and they're in the darkness. And so if you move to panel 2, you'll see kind of like a shattering of the soul. So if the soul had an opportunity to be whole and complete in the first phase, and that darkness casts a shadow, there's now this shattering and a breaking down of the human being, and the darkness sets in.
Is that where we get hole in the soul?
That is where we get
And
hole in the soul.
if you feel you have a hole in the soul, or you feel detached, or you have this really burning desire to attach, you can pick up the phone and call Dr. Judy and get on the couch.
Yeah, and since I have anxious attachment, please don't detach from me. It's
Yeah,
the worst thing
yeah,
for me.
yeah. I've got abandonment issues as well.
Yeah,
the
we
phone number
both do.
is area code 323-284-7826. That's 323-284-7826.
So there's more and more research. I want to read you a little bit of Daniel Siegel's foreword on the trauma in the body, because now they're showing that the trauma is stored within the body, and he talks about...
Pretty thick textbook there.
It's very thick, and I have reduced bodies of knowledge into a 9-panel mind map because I personally don't like to read thick textbooks, and I'm imagining that a lot of people out there don't like to read tons and tons of research, and they just want somebody like myself to synthesize it, which I have done, and be the cause mind map. And Daniel Siegel writes, an interpersonal neurobiology perspective draws on a broad range of disciplines to create an integrated picture of human experience and development of well-being. So we're talking about interpersonal, we're talking about interconnection, we're talking about broadening the field to include other fields. And really what we're talking about is, rather than being splintered off into a bunch of fragmented pieces, our field, the field of psychology, is beginning to look at us as a whole in the web of context of interconnectedness. And more research is showing that relationships heal, and more research is showing that to be an island and to be alone is not healthy for the brain. So how about that?
It's not healthy for anybody. You and I were talking about on the phone on the way over here that, for example, it's married couples are they're better off. The men usually are, and if the wife dies, from my experience more often than not, if they have a really good marriage, if the wife dies first, typically the husband's going to go die and pass within 2 years.
Yeah, it's not uncommon.
No, it's not.
And it's also vice versa. When in the elderly, you see that the husband passes away, and soon after the
you know what?
dies.
I do a lot of research on the internet, and probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks don't go by where there's a little story where within hours, one will die and the other will die, and in some cases, for some reason, they're not together. They're in different nursing homes, or they're with different family members, so they're not together. But yet, again, they have such a attuned connection.
And it's also intuitive, because really when you hold the hand of another, you can actually feel your blood pressure begin to go down.
Yeah.
When you look into the eyes of another, you can begin to feel your breathing begin to regulate. So we're not that different from who we were as infants. It's the same thing. We still want to look eye to eye into the eyes of our beloved. We still want to touch the skin of our beloved.
I do.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to I am or instant message with somebody. Texting only goes so far. Phone calling is nice, but you know what? Looking in someone's eyes and actually having a intercourse conversation is important.
You know, I was talking to my son the other day, and
he was in his early 30s.
Yeah, I was saying, hey, Mike, why are you texting so much? Because, of course, when I come to visit him, I want him to connect with me, and I'm all about that. He goes, Mom, you don't understand. Our generation is more connected. We're connecting with a lot of people, and so I wasn't quite buying it.
I don't buy it because it's funny. I have a daughter who's in early 20s, and she's going, this is a joke.
Yes, it's
a joke. It only goes so far,
right?
And we're not very connected. I mean, she's very active on Facebook, and she's does a lot of texting, and she's going, you know what, this gets old fast. So
we're really, we talked a lot about trauma in the seminar, and trauma has a major effect on the brain in that it actually shuts off the cognitive functioning, and it takes us back to our fight-flight place of the reptilian brain. So after the seminar, I started fight and flight.
Yeah. Wow.
So after I thought about this, I thought about relationships, people that I know who have anger management issues, for example, and it dawned on me that these people have been severely traumatized in early childhood, and so when they get re-triggered with abandonment, let's say, they don't really know how to think it through and talk it through because the trauma is reactivated, and it's kind of like a post-traumatic stress disorder.
I was going to say, if they're reliving it, it's PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
That's right. There's a post-traumatic stress disorder going on in them, and so they're not able to say, honey, right now I'm really angry, I'm feeling really dissociated from even myself, my head is spinning, and I'm out of control. They do not have the ability to do that, so they jump quickly into this reptilian brain, and they may act out on the spot.
And
so
they probably don't even know they do it.
Correct.
And it's just natural. I mean, I had a neighbor who he got a big jolt and a dopamine out of arguments. And he'd come over all the time and just out of the blue would try and start an argument. And for a long time, I was like, what in the world is this guy's problem?
Well,
and it turned out he needed the stimulation in his brain of what an argument is.
Yes, and sometimes when we go into the depressive mode, what takes us out of the depressive mode is the more aggressive mode or the more manic mode.
Right.
I had a patient the other day who was diagnosed with bipolar disease, and she brought in an amazing, beautiful piece of artwork, and it really, I'm going to ask her for permission to publicize this in my book, Be the Cause Healing Human Disconnect.
Which should be out and available probably next month or two.
Yeah, we're working on
it.
Yeah. So anyway, it's such a beautiful illustration because one of the things that happens literally in the brain is that the corpus callosum, which is that adjoining bridge between the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere, starts to wither when there's no human contact. And then the different areas of the brain that are not stimulated start to wither, and the dendrites start to wither. The neurotransmitters get all mixed up and messed up. And so this illustration, it was so beautiful because I just got to sit with this woman who was so lovely to share this with me, second session of the therapy.
Okay.
And I was so honored that she opened up to me about this. And so I looked at the painting, and I saw that in the painting there was that other life where there was some semblance of connection and peace and joy, and then the splintering off, which was reminding me of the corpus callosum. And then there was another splintering, which was the manic, which was on top, and the depressive, which was below. And then in there was a picture of a red, bloody, veiny eyeball, which represented her. To me, it represented her straining to be eye contacted. She's like blowing blood vessels just to connect with the world, and she wasn't feeling that she was able to, and then she'd sink into this deep dark hole of a depression.
Right.
And on the depression side of the painting, there was another eye that had no lens, and it was just a bunch of neurons just kind of branching out, lost. And I just looked at that thinking, what a perfect illustration of mania, the strain to connect,
Pining.
the depression of not connecting, and then the other space of the hope of reconnecting.
Now, folks, you may not have caught that, but this patient really opened up to Dr. Judy and really took a risk to express part of herself in this painting she's created in the second session. So what this implies to me is that the mind map and the system that Dr. Judy's using is very, very effective, and we're going to talk about this, and can essentially shorten the length of therapy and get you better for good faster, because my point is, it's not how you start that matters, it's how you finish.
And, I'm really, really not a believer in allowing my patients to stay in pain and suffering.
Absolutely
I
not.
want them out. I want the whole world out of the darkness
Right.
and into the light. And if I can be instrumental in shifting their paradigm in how they view life and give meaning and hope to their life, then I will feel that I have done my job as a psychologist, as a human being, and that gives my life meaning.
And my personal definition of hope, HOPE, is what Dr. Judy's doing is she's helping other people escape the pains and challenges that they may have had all of their life from childhood.
That's so nice. I didn't know that you invented that.
HOPE, hope. So
very beautiful.
she's truly in the hope business, folks. And I'm not saying there's a guarantee that it can happen quick or happen at all. But just listening to Judy, I've been around therapists practically all my life in one form or another. I've needed a lot of help. Actually, I was married to one. The effectiveness and lasting results are just mind-boggling and give me hope.
Well, today I was chatting with Dr. Walter Brockelmans, and he was saying that it's the relationship that cures. And here we go again, back to
human
unconditional
contact as well.
love. And he made a funny statement about, it's such a powerful relationship, the therapist-patient relationship, that if it's really, really injected and infused, and I call it, if you're in the consciousness of unconditional love with your patients, if you're out there and you're a therapist, then that healing force is being transmitted to the patient. And he said something funny like, then it doesn't matter what you do. You could sit there and sing Mary Had a Little Lamb, and, well, I don't sing really well, so I just, I don't do that. But, I get the point, and I do experiments, and I tell my patients that I'm doing an experiment on them, and they will talk to me, and I will avert my eyes. I'll start looking at my cell phone or flipping through a magazine or something, and then I'll ask them what that experience was like, and each and every time they will say, oh God, I had a hard time keeping my thoughts together. I was losing conversation. I was getting anxious. I was feeling angry at you. Why were you doing that? And truly, it was an experiment to show people what a little bit of disconnection does. And the kids go crazy. Dr. Judy, what's the matter with you? I thought you were a psychologist. Why are you looking at your cell phone during our session? I said,
how long would you be looking at your cell phone or reading a magazine? I mean, before you really
10 seconds, 15, 20 max.
Oh man.
That's it. So can you imagine that if I'm not their mother, correct? And sometimes they barely know me. And if I can be the cause of human disconnect in such a short period of time, now take that and extrapolate it to a mother-baby relationship, and the mother now goes back to work or hands it over to her child care provider. And then there are worse scenarios where babies are dying because there's a failure to thrive at orphanages where babies are not touched, and this lack of touch really withers them literally away. So if that little tiny experiment can be an illustration of what human disconnect does to human beings, then we all need to be on top of our game. We all need to be engaging in this web of interconnectivity, which is not only you and your partner. It also includes you, your partner, your children, your family, the community, and
the human race.
And the human race.
Yeah.
Okay, so once we get it that we are all the cause of the outcome of part 2 of our lives, because we're not the cause of part 1 of our lives, because we were infants absorbing these stimuli or lack thereof. So we are not the cause of part 1 of our lives, but we need to be the cause of healing the disconnect, and we need to be the cause continuing the connection into the next, not only the next generation, but also we need to be instruments of connection to other human beings.
Well, that brings me a question that I was going to bring up from my research, and the title of the article is "How Good Therapists Make You Feel Safe." And Dr. Judy didn't know I was going to ask this question.
I didn't.
And
Surprised me. I like it.
The process of creating a safe place is when therapy can take place is referred to as building a secure frame.
Yes.
And it's a very important aspect of therapy. So my question, Dr. Judy, what are the ways that you do to make your patients feel safe?
Well, first of all,
because obviously it's working.
There's a lot to it. First of all, I try to call them back immediately. I really try to.
Okay, so you validate their importance.
I validate their importance.
Yeah, them being a human being.
I ask them what their goal is in coming to therapy, meaning that I'm more interested in what they want out of the therapy than what I want.
Well, it's their agenda. It's their agenda, not yours.
Yeah,
what a concept.
Exactly. I make it a point to create a really comfortable atmosphere for them. I work out of my home, so there's always herb tea, and it's just, I have some healthy food available, like tangerines or nuts or whatever. Some people come to me and they're hungry and they can't think, and they will take a snack because they need literally some nourishment. Yep. And I have dogs, so my dogs walk around, and if people don't like dogs, then I put the dogs in another space, and I respect their space. And just the whole atmosphere, and I work out of a space which is very healing. It's called the Psychological Healing Center, and it's literally a beautiful place. It's got
amazing
views, and so my office is not this cold and cut off office. You're staring over treetop view when you're in therapy, and so that's already a sign of an atmosphere that promotes health, and people just like coming to the house. So what do I do to create that safety?
Well, how about safe environment in the therapy in the session?
Privacy, knowing that their work is private, knowing that they are going to have my full attention, and that they're going to get my full presence. This is a big topic of discussion at the attachment seminar. The sense of presence of the therapist, that therapists go heal thyself, because if you have attachment issues and you're not present and you don't know how to do eye contact and you're in defense mechanism modes, well, it's going to show up in the therapy room. If you're not really managing your own therapeutic issues, it's going to be possibly projected on the patient. So safety, presence, the ability to listen.
I was going to say, you just hit on a lot of things here. There's top 8 characteristics a psychologist should have.
Wait, I want to say some more, so I'll see if I hit them.
All right, say if you hit more.
Having a system, hugely important.
That's not on the list.
Okay, it's really important.
I know it's vital, but it's not on the list.
Got to have a system, and not only that, I don't like it if I know more than my patients in terms of the basics. They and I need to be on the same mind map, and it's my job to simplify the language so that they can get it. I don't want to talk theoretical to them. I don't want to talk in a one-upsmanship manner to them. Let's just meet eye to eye and let me catch them up. And as Einstein said, if you can't explain it simply, then you're not doing. I forget the exact quote, but
it's a KISS method. KISS.
Yeah.
Keep it super simple, or keep it short and sweet.
Correct.
That's my interpretation.
So that's why the mind map, to keep it short, simple, very elegant, very eloquent, and
attract a run on. And we've got goals, because we as human beings are goal oriented.
Also visual.
Yes.
Okay, so that's another aspect of keeping people safe and letting them know that I know what's going on. How about that for a concept? I'm letting them know, oh, I get it. I see why you and Harry are not getting along today or any day. You're not getting along because, number one, you're not even relating to Henry. You're relating to Henry's infiltrated past. And Henry, you're relating to Martha's infiltrated past. So you're basically having a relationship with your in-laws. So that is the problem right there. And so what we're going to do is we're going to clear the space.
If you have a relationship with your in-laws, eventually you're going to be an outlaw.
Very well put. Okay, so what's the therapy? Clear the space so that we can separate out what's going on within the relationship with what's been going on along the multi-generational transmission process of pathology to the individual people. And we have to take that piece and we have to clean that slate up so that they can, again, have a clean space between each other. So people need to know, their brains need to catch the logic. Okay, we're going to analyze the cause of the problem. We're going to look at the wound, the reaction, the encoding. We're going to look at the breakdown of the problem, the defenses, and how they actually end up exploding or imploding on you. And we're going to, instead of doing that, instead of exploding and imploding,
we're going to unload.
Thank you, Walt. Okay, so the treatment plan. Where are we going? What's your plan for me? Real important. Go ahead.
So the 8 things, you've hit on most of them, surprisingly.
Did I miss some?
I'm just teasing.
Did I not get 100%?
First and foremost is you need to be an effective listener. As I've said, all of us have 2 ears and 1 mouth, which implies that we should listen twice as much as we speak. Okay. Second is self-aware, aware of their own issues, traits, and nuances before they can assist anybody else, aware of the therapist's own. Okay. And present, also present suggestions that are given to assist the client. Third of 8 characteristics the psychologist should have is be approachable. They need to feel comfortable to talk to. Fourth is educated. Okay, being involved in maybe the APA, American Psychological Association, or Judy's also involved in the CPA, the California Psychological Association. Fifth is ethical, and we don't need to elaborate that much. Fifth is being an effective communicator. Use what they've learned from their educational background and convey this information to their client without causing confusion. He's already talked about it, keeping it very simple, short, and sweet. And the mind map, again, we're all mind goal-oriented, and it's very, very effective. Seventh is versatile. I can't tell you how many times Judy's called up and it just demonstrates how versatile she is, whether it's a 9-year-old child or a 75-year-old grandmother. Different forms of therapy are used to help the client. And lastly is confident. Deals with individuals in a versatile state. It's important that they're confident in the information they're providing.
Interesting that you said confident, because that was the last thing we talked about today, is the extreme importance of the therapist being confident in his or her treatment plan, because that patient is coming to see you because sometimes their life is in your hands. And if you don't have confidence to show them that there is an extreme body of knowledge and a pathway to healing, and that they're coming here to really, if they think they're coming here to waste their time because you don't know what you're doing, you don't know where you're going, and you haven't gotten the education to get them there, well, they're going to start backpedaling out of therapy, and you're going to lose a patient.
Well, along those lines, there's 50 signs of good therapy, which you don't have time to go through, but the intro was very important. Good therapy is about helping the client feel better, to make healthy decisions and set healthy boundaries, to move from a place of poor emotional health to good emotional health, to make connections with others, to replace sadness, anxiety, anger, and frustration with happiness, peace, and a hopefulness for the future. So there you go.
I love it.
We're running out of time here, but what I wanted to add is a little article I got in the mail this week, emailed, regarding love. We talk about the greatest thing that we can all do is what? Universal love, right?
Unconditional
love. And this talks about unconditional love. And universal love. And it says here, unconditional or universal love happens to be the building block of all things. Unconditional love is as much more than emotion or a feeling or fancying someone or giving them a quickie. Unconditional love is the most balanced form of energy. Love is the balance of all. And lastly, unconditional love is silliness, peace of mind, is stillness, peace of mind, the universe of love.
And by the way, when I think of unconditional love, that doesn't mean condoning everybody's
absolutely not.
negative acts toward another human being. That's just common sense. Use your boundaries and put your boundaries up, because sometimes unconditional love means setting those boundaries and letting that individual learn where those boundaries are, and learn that they need to respect other people's spaces, and they need to behave in in an ethical fashion. To not help them realize those boundaries is the opposite of unconditional love. To let them just steamroll all over you and then have a green light to abuse others in the same fashion is not an example.
No, it's not.
Of
And the best way
love.
I can explain that is there was a very prominent psychologist back in the day named Dr. James Dobson, and he wrote a book, I believe it was called Love Must Be Tough. Right?
Yes,
tough
sometimes
love.
it is tough love.
I mean, it's not easy being a parent. It's not easy being a spouse sometimes. But you know what? There has to be boundaries, and sometimes that's tough love.
Yes, well, there's such a plethora of information on the topic of unconditional love and neurobiochemistry in the brain, and topic of love and being in love, and lust and limerence versus solid, peaceful love and excited love. So we'll get more into that as we continue our Hole in the Soul series.
And it is now time for us to shrink that tune. And the tune we're going to do this time is called In Your Eyes, and it's by Peter Gabriel. So I'm going to read the lyrics. Dr. Judy's going to interpret it. And then, of course, we're going to play the song, close out with. Love, I get so lost. Sometimes days pass and this emptiness fills my heart. When I want to run away, I drive off in my car, but whichever way I go, I come back to the place you are.
So I'm looking at these through the eyes of attachment theory and developmental psychology, and I'm looking at the infant part of us that sometimes gets so lost and feeling so empty that we just want to disconnect and run away. But then there's this urge to come back to the place you are, to interconnect, to come back to mom, to come back to that peaceful, joyful spot that is within a relationship.
All my instincts, they return, and the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside.
So the instincts, which are the primitive parts of us, they return, and the grand facade, which is our false self, is the way I see it, our self that's, pleasing and doing and twisting and turning to please another person, will soon burn away, because really what people want is the authentic self mirrored in the eyes of another and accepted for the way that they're being, not just for what they're doing.
Accepted and understood.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you have to agree with them.
Yes. Good
Right?
point. Yeah.
Right. In your eyes, the light of the heat. In your eyes, I am complete. In your eyes, I see the doorway to 1,000 churches. In your eyes, the resolution of all the fruitless searches. In your eyes, I see the light and the heat. In your eyes, oh, I want to be that complete. I want to touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes.
I mean, there's panel 1 right there.
Yeah.
Wow. The eyes of the mother, the fovea, the eyes, the window to the soul, and that's the attachment organ, the most incredible attachment organ, and this also activates the holiness, the spirituality, the 1,000 churches, and it's just connecting to the light again.
And it could be a very religious experience.
Yes.
Love, I don't like to see so much pain, so much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I get so tired of working so hard for our survival. I look to the time with you to keep me alive and awake.
Because it is so hard to do it alone, love. I don't like to see the pain. I get so tired of working so hard for our survival alone. So I look to the time with you. Again, it's with you to keep me awake and alive. Interconnection, interrelational.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, the blueprint of interrelational.
In all my instincts they return, and the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without a pride, I reach out from the side. And then, of course, the chorus again. In your eyes, in the light of the heat, in your eyes, I am complete. In your eyes, I see the doorway to 1,000 churches. In your eyes, the resolution of all the fruitless searches. In your eyes, I see the light and the heat. In your eyes, oh, I want to be that complete. I want to touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes. It's Peter Gabriel.
From the inside out.
From the inside out. In Your Eyes is one of my favorite songs. And that's it for our show, folks. If you want to send a request of a song you'd like us to shrink, you can send it to info@drjudywtf.com. You can pull our former shows on iTunes and Stitcher, and of course here at Universal Broadcasting Network. That's it for our time. Next week we'll have another session of Hole in the Soul. Rumor has it we might be talking about happiness. So we hope we have a happy time then.
I'm happy about that.
Yeah, and I am too. I've been your host, Walt Lusk, and of course, Dr. Judy Rosenberg, as usual. So thanks for listening, and God bless everyone.
God bless.
Until next time.
I get so lost sometimes. Days pass and this emptiness fills my heart. When I want to run away, I drive off in my car. But whichever I come back to the place you are. All my instincts, they return. The grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, the light, the heat, I am complete. See the doorway, 1,000 churches, resolution of all the fruitless searches. Oh, I see the light and the heat. Oh, I wanna be that complete. I wanna touch the light, the heat I see in your eyes. Love, I don't like to see so much pain, so much wasted, and this moment keeps slipping away. I get so tired, working so hard for our survival. I look to the time with you to keep me awake and alive. And all my instincts, they return. And the grand facade so soon will burn. Without a noise, without my pride, I reach out from the inside. In your eyes, in your eyes,
Tune in each week on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 11 a.m. following The Bob Show on ubnradio.com. Pure Polino, culinary culture, astrology, and so much more. Pure Polino on ubnradio.com.